Angel Reese has just been suspended for the entire season and fined over $1.2 million for what she just did, as she was caught saying the Z word on live TV.
Caitlin Clark, she will be missing Friday's game due to her continued groin injury, and Angel Reese has been suspended for Friday's game after getting assessed a technical foul Wednesday night for pimp slapping Aaliyah Edwards.
Angel Reese is no longer simply sitting out games or showing signs of frustration. She's transformed into the league's biggest talking point, dominating every conversation and highlight reel. What was once just a suspension has now turned her into a full-blown spectacle. The storm at the center of the WNBA, stirring drama and keeping everyone glued to the story.
Reese receives her 8th tech, which will prohibit her from playing against the Indiana Fever. And 2, she's in some pretty hot water with her teammates about the Chicago Tribune.
Throw out the carefully scripted rivalries. Toss aside the commissioner's picture-perfect marketing campaigns. This entire season has narrowed down to one unstoppable headline. A single player who keeps tripping over her own choices. She's sitting out yet another blockbuster matchup, not due to an injury, but thanks to one more suspension stacking onto her record. Her latest moment? An 8th technical foul punctuated by a spinning backhand that looked less like basketball and more like a highlight straight out of the UFC.
Kathy Engelbert tried to rig the cards in the WNBA's favor by having the Indiana Fever and the Chicago Sky go head-to-head 5 times this season. Unfortunately for Kathy Engelbert, Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese will only be going head-to-head 1 of those 5 times, and that time has come.
This wasn't the clash fans had been waiting for. This wasn't the epic Clark versus Reese showdown. No modern-day Ollie versus Frazier. Just ponytails and pure drama. Instead, one superstar was benched by injury while the other sat out because of her own decisions, leaving fans staring at another episode of frustration when they were promised a night full of fireworks and unforgettable moments.
What happened? How did we get here? What she just said, the national championship game. We were not talking about Caitlin Clark before Angel Reese walked up to her, did this.
Lads, Angel Reese is currently up to be suspended. She has 7 technical fouls on the season. And if this was last season, in a 44-game season, she would have already been suspended. And it is genuinely one of the funny things about this is that her fans are arguing that none of the techs are warranted. They are all warranted.
And while she's been missing from the hardwood, Reese hasn't exactly stayed quiet in the shadows. She's blasted teammates by name, thrown shade at league veterans, and even taken public shots at her rookie head coach. Then, almost in the same breath, she slid into damage control mode, insisting her words were twisted or taken the wrong way. But let's be honest, once you drag teammates into the spotlight, there's no putting that genie back in the bottle. This isn't just a rivalry anymore. This is full-blown theater. And Angel Reese, whether she likes it or not, is now the star of the league's wildest soap opera.
Oh snap, she packed her up, bro. She low-key packed her up. It was so sly. Oh shoot. Dang, Angel. Man, this is horrible timing if she get this 8th technical. I think they're gonna give her a technical. Getting suspended for a game after what she said about her team basically being trash and needing new players, man. Yeah, that's a tech. Dang. So she's gonna be suspended. This is all just bad timing, bro. Bad timing.
That's right. Angel Reese didn't use the front of her hand. Angel Reese went with the back of her hand and bow right across Aaliyah Edwards' head.
And then, of course, came the suspension, the moment that turned the season on its head. Angel Reese didn't just pick up another technical foul. She secured herself the lead role in the WNBA's unscripted drama series. The play didn't look like basketball at all. It played out like a clip ripped straight from a UFC highlight reel. In the middle of the action, Reese spun around on Aaliyah Edwards and threw a backhand so dramatic it felt more like pro wrestling theater, the kind Vince McMahon himself might have scripted for maximum shock value.
But I'm here to tell you, when I picked my phone up, and I looked at all of these damn alerts. I say, hold up, wait a minute. It is looking spooky. Angel Reese got suspended. Angel Reese threw her team under the bus. When the hell did this happen?
Throw the playbook out the window. Forget footwork, forget positioning, forget even the basics of boxing out. Whatever this was, it had left basketball far behind. It felt like Mortal Kombat with a Wnba logo stamped on it. And this wasn't just some lazy tap in the heat of the moment. It was a fully charged, razor-sharp wrist flick, delivered with precision that looked almost intentional. Slow the clip down and every frame lines up perfectly. The coil, the torque, the snap. A move so clean it could be studied like a science experiment.
For you, Aaliyah Edwards is a lot of bucket.
Reese's swing didn't look anything like a normal basketball move. It cut through the air like a perfect circle, tracing a clean arc straight across Edwards' face. Too smooth to be accidental. And give Aaliyah Edwards some props, because she turned the moment into pure theater. She went down dramatically, hands on her head, selling the contact like a seasoned actress, and giving fans a performance that could win her an acting award.
Basically, her entire team feels attacked by her from comments that she made in a Chicago Tribune article. This is what Front Office Sports is reporting. According to the report, Reese said she doesn't believe her teammates Rachel Bannum or Hailey Van Lith are capable of leading a playoff team. Guard Ariel Atkins is another player on the Sky's roster with WNBA championships.
For a moment, it almost felt like a film set. You could practically imagine someone stepping in with a clapperboard shouting, "That's a wrap." Instantly, fans were divided into two loud camps. Some defended it as nothing more than raw competitive energy, while others blasted it as a dirty cheap shot. But no matter which side you landed on, intentional strike or theatrical flop, the officials had already made up their minds, and that was all that really counted.
Angel Reese roasted the Chicago Sky as a whole, as an organization, as a staff, a collective, and a crew, so bad to the point where it actually gave them some motivation into next.
And the league's hammer dropped without hesitation. Ree picked up her 8th technical foul of the season, along with a suspension that yanked her out of yet another marquee matchup the league had hyped to the moon. What was supposed to be the rivalry that turned women's basketball into primetime, must-see TV kept losing its star to her own decisions. At this point, the suspensions weren't side notes in the story. They were the story, stealing the spotlight from the games themselves.
The ironic thing about the Indiana Fever and the Sky is that the WNBA commissioner, Kathy Engelbert, she started this thing called Rivalry Week, of which the parameters pretty much put the Sky and the Indiana Fever as rivals. And obviously the two players being the rivals are Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. Now, Angel Reese has actually only played one game against the Fever, and she missed 2 games due to a back injury, and this will be her 3rd game that she misses against.
The slap was just one chapter in the ever-growing Angel Reese drama. When she wasn't throwing backhands on the court, she was throwing verbal jabs off it, and nobody escaped her aim. Rachel Bam, not a leader. Hailey Van Lith, not ready for the league. Courtney Vandersloot, too old, too broken. Kia Nurse, too busy gossiping at half court. Rebecca Allen, shouldn't even be here. It felt less like Media Day and more like an unfiltered roast special starring Angel Reese. Every teammate turned into a punchline, and even the coaching staff took hits. Rookie head coach Tyler Marsh, the man trying to salvage a sinking season, was publicly told to coach harder, as if he'd been sipping lattes on the bench while the team spiraled into irrelevance. And the numbers made her criticism look even harsher. The Chicago Sky were sitting at a 9-30 record, not just bad, but the kind of season historians point to as a warning sign. This wasn't a campaign, it was a case study in dysfunction. Yet Ree walked through the chaos as if she were untouchable, demanding greatness while standing ankle-deep in mediocrity. The optics were brutal, like a fry cook demanding a Michelin star just for remembering to salt the fries. Her message was clear. Angel Reese believed she was the savior of the franchise. Reality, however, told a very different story. And then, 2 days later, came the pivot. Reese began her slow backpedal, reversing course with the urgency of a kid realizing they've just landed themselves in serious trouble. The bold callouts were suddenly misunderstood, and the chaos engine she'd ignited was now something she was scrambling to contain.
Just in, Angel Reese is just back to being and make no mistake about it, she can come out and say that she apologizes for the way that people took the comments that she made, but her comments were pretty...
What started as bold, chest-out critiques quickly melted into carefully worded misunderstandings. Public call-outs that had shaken the locker room were suddenly recast as private heart-to-hearts and quiet apologies. Angel Reese now swore she loved her teammates, that her comments had been twisted, that this was all one big misinterpretation. It was PR 101, the kind of cleanup job so predictable you could set a calendar reminder for it. And just when it looked like the storm might calm, Ariel Atkins stepped up as Reese's unofficial defense attorney. Normally known for her hustle and grit on the hardwood, Atkins suddenly turned into part poet, part therapist, giving the cameras a monologue worthy of a documentary. She reminded everyone that Reese was just 23, still learning, still growing, carrying the crushing weight of expectations. Heavy is the head, she said. Heavy is the crown. Heavy are those 8 technical fouls. The speech was classy, even elegant, but it didn't erase the fracture lines. Because once you've called teammates out by name, there's no stuffing those words back in your mouth. Apologies become like paint over cracked walls. The damage still shows through if you look closely enough. And for every word Atkins spoke in defense, half the locker room stayed quiet, stewing, their names still ringing in the echo of Reese's critique. To them, it wasn't a misunderstanding at all. It was a hit list dressed up as honesty. As the chatter cooled, league executives started saying the quiet part out loud. On a true contender, Reese wouldn't be the franchise centerpiece she imagines herself to be. She wouldn't be the queen, the face of the team, maybe not even the knight. She'd be the bishop, important, skilled, but not the piece you build a dynasty around. And yet there she was, demanding help, demanding reinforcements, as if she alone were carrying the fate of the franchise, or maybe the entire league, on her shoulders. The irony was impossible to miss. Instead of steering the sky back to relevance, she totaled the car, blamed the tires, blamed the mechanic, and even blamed the city planner who designed the road. Ask around, and you'd hear 2 very different versions of Angel Reese, the league's fire-breathing villain or its misunderstood heroine. Some applauded her passion, her refusal to be silent. Others rolled their eyes, calling her delusional, a player whose words have outgrown her resume. But one thing was undeniable. Love her or hate her, Angel Reese kept the WNBA buzzing, even if it was for all the wrong reasons.
AB, one thing Angel Reese knows how to do is get the internet going. For those that don't know, an article was released today by the Chicago Tribune featuring Angel Reese, and she was basically just talking about the state of the Chicago Sky, her hopes in the offseason, and basically just putting pressure on the front office in regards to building a championship.
Kathy Angelbert, sitting at the top of the WNBA as commissioner, had envisioned something entirely different for this season. The Indiana Fever versus Chicago Sky rivalry was supposed to be the league's crown jewel, its marquee attraction, Caitlin Clark versus Angel Reese, a modern-day Ollie versus Frazier, only with ponytails, three-pointers, and record-breaking ratings. This was supposed to be the rivalry that drove growth, hooked casual fans, and created storylines big enough to cross over into pop culture. Instead, fans got a blooper reel dressed up as a marketing campaign. Out of 5 nationally hyped matchups, Clark and Reese had shared the court only once. Clark's nagging groin injury kept her out of action for much of the season, while Reese managed to sideline herself with suspension after suspension. What should have been must-see TV became must-skip reruns, with backup players awkwardly standing in for the stars everyone tuned in to watch. It felt less like the WNBA's crown jewel and more like Titanic 2, a doomed sequel no one asked for. In the aftermath, the Chicago Sky scrambled to hold a team meeting to smooth things over, but the vibes were less team bonding and more mandatory HR mediation before someone calls legal. Picture it. Professional athletes sitting in stiff folding chairs while a team rep gently asks them to share their feelings about being called washed by their own teammate. What could anyone say? Courtney Vandersloot, a veteran who has been hooping professionally since before TikTok even existed, was essentially told she was an expired carton of milk. Hailey Van Lith, the freshly minted face of the team and marketed as a college Disney princess with a killer jumper, had to stand there and take the insinuation that she wasn't ready for the pros. Rachel Banham, already a frequent punchline for WNBA Twitter, heard her name dragged yet again, this time by someone wearing the same jersey. This wasn't constructive criticism. This was targeted shade, barely disguised as honesty. The Chicago Sky thought drafting Angel Reese would be a marketing slam dunk. Ticket sales, jersey sales, viral moments, and a fast track back to relevance. On paper, the blueprint looked flawless. In reality, what they got was less a franchise rebuild and more a full-on reality show, a Bravo drama and high tops. Teammates subtweeting each other through post-game interviews. Coaches visibly aging in real time under the stress. A locker room splintering into factions. And standing in the middle of it all was Tyler Marsh, the rookie head coach who had signed up believing he'd get to build a culture, implement a system, and grow into a respected leader. Instead, he found himself playing therapist, conflict mediator, and part-time crisis manager, refereeing squabbles, holding intervention-style meetings, and defending his own authority after being publicly called out. He wasn't a coach anymore. He was a babysitter in a burning daycare, trying to hold everything together while the building smoldered around him.
Black and white sports reporters, well, my goodness, I decided to take a few hours off yesterday afternoon prior to the start of the NFL season tonight, knowing I'm about to be pressed into action as if I wasn't already. The NFL returns tonight. Praise baby Jesus. But I'm out of it for a few hours. And I get online this morning and I find out that Angel Reese has, for lack of a better way of putting it, shit all over her teammates. Or as some people might call it, drown her teammates. And her teammates are none too happy.
Fans, in the end, became unwilling passengers on a runaway roller coaster they never bought tickets for. They were promised a clash of titans, a rivalry that would define the season and deliver the kind of moments you tell your kids about years later. What they actually got was a single real showdown buried under weeks of chaos, suspensions, sideline drama, backhand highlights, and PR apologies. Instead of a fireworks show, they got wet sparklers fizzling out in the rain. And the fallout stretched far beyond one player or even one franchise. Angel Reese's reputation started traveling faster than her stat lines. Every time she roasted a teammate, free agents across the league took notes, who would willingly step into a locker room knowing they might be next on the chopping block, who would tie their career to a franchise where the self-appointed savior seemed to burn every bridge she crossed. It started to feel less like joining a professional basketball team and more like signing up for a season of reality TV, without the paycheck, without the glam squad, and without the option to walk off set when things got too messy. Fun for fans watching from their couches, exhausting for the players living through it. And then came the one truth nobody could spin away. The scoreboard: 30.9 wins. 30 losses. The stat that cuts through all the noise. No clever captions, no late-night Twitter threads, no misunderstood press conferences can erase it. For all the theatrics, the spinning backhands, the moonwalking apologies, the Chicago Sky remained firmly planted at the bottom. Until Angel Reese stops swinging at opponents and starts confronting her own shortcomings. This story won't become a redemption arc. It will only get louder, pettier, and more absurd with every passing week. Maybe the solution isn't another apology tour or another viral soundbite. Maybe it's not about doubling down on drama. Maybe the answer is the simplest one of all. Just playing basketball the right way, right now, and letting the game speak louder than the headlines. Because until that happens, this isn't a rivalry. It isn't a comeback story. It's just noise. And if Angel Reese truly wants to be the face of the league, it's time to stop talking, stop swinging, and start winning.